Did you know that the tighter you grip your money, the faster it slips away? I discovered this backwards truth when I finally realized my constant financial anxiety wasn't actually protecting me from anything. It was the very thing keeping abundance at arm's length. Understanding money did not automatically quiet my relationship with it, and what I learned next completely flipped everything I thought I knew about building wealth. When I started tracking my own money behavior, I noticed something. When we experience scarcity, our cognitive bandwidth shrinks, making it harder to plan ahead, make sound decisions, and see the bigger picture. Think of your brain as a warehouse with limited storage space. When you're constantly worried about money, that anxiety takes up massive amounts of mental real estate, leaving little room for the strategic thinking that actually creates wealth. I watched this play out in my own life when I was hoarding every dollar in my savings account, terrified to invest or spend on anything that might help my business grow. My brain was literally working against me. The more tightly I gripped my money, the worse my financial decisions became. I was so focused on protecting what I had that I couldn't see the opportunities right in front of me. But here's where it gets interesting. I decided to test this theory on myself. I took $500 from my emergency fund and invested it in a course I'd been wanting to take for months. My stomach was in knots as I clicked purchase. Every fiber of my being screamed that I was being reckless, that I should keep that money safely tucked away where nothing could happen to it. The weird thing, within 2 weeks of taking that course, I landed a freelance project that paid $1,200. It wasn't magic. It was simply that releasing my death grip on that $500 freed up mental space to actually apply what I was learning. Instead of constantly calculating and recalculating my bank balance, I was focused on implementing new strategies and reaching out to potential clients. That moment taught me something profound. My attachment to money wasn't protecting me from financial disaster. It was creating it. So you saw how that $500 investment freed up mental space to focus on actually implementing what I learned instead of constantly calculating my bank balance. Comment your answer below. Now let me show you what happened next when I started applying this principle more broadly. 3 months after that first breakthrough, I started noticing the most unexpected side effect of releasing my grip on money. Opportunities began appearing everywhere. Think of it like water. When you treat money as a flow rather than a fixed state, it starts moving more freely through your life. I'd always been the person who saw one path to more income: work harder, save more, protect what I had. But once I stopped white-knuckling my finances, my brain suddenly had bandwidth to notice things I'd been blind to before. A former colleague reached out about a consulting project. A neighbor mentioned they needed help with something in my wheelhouse. I started saying yes to coffee meetings I would have previously declined as expensive distractions. Each conversation opened another door I hadn't even known existed. When you're no longer consumed by scarcity thinking, you naturally make more generous and future-oriented decisions. You invest in relationships, you make thoughtful career moves, you set ambitious goals. But here's where most people completely misunderstand this principle, and where I made my biggest mistake early on. When I first heard about releasing attachment to money, I thought it meant becoming careless with it. I started avoiding checking my bank balance due to anxiety, not realizing that avoidance behavior actually worsens financial health. I confused conscious detachment with reckless abandonment. I spent 3 weeks pretending money didn't matter, making purchases without thinking, telling myself I was practicing abundance. My credit card balance climbed while I convinced myself this was spiritual growth. The universe, I figured, would handle the details. What I learned the hard way is that conscious detachment isn't about ignoring money. It's about releasing the emotional charge around it so you can actually think clearly about it. The difference is crucial. Reckless spending comes from avoiding financial reality, while conscious detachment comes from facing it without the panic. One is denial, the other is clarity. Now, 3 years later, my relationship with money has completely transformed. I no longer check my bank balance with anxiety. I check it with curiosity. I am noticing more opportunities around me than I used to see, and the results speak for themselves. Last month alone, I received 3 different income opportunities that I would have been too mentally cluttered to pursue in my old scarcity mindset. When you stop desperately grasping for financial security, you create space for money to flow more naturally toward you. With an abundant mindset, you're more likely to see the long-term rewards and understand that financial growth comes with some risk. You're visualizing your financial goals, taking leaps of faith when needed. The most profound shift isn't in my bank account, though that's grown significantly. It's in my nervous system. Money has become a tool for creating value rather than a source of constant worry. And that shift has opened doors I couldn't even see before. Subscribe for more counterintuitive mindset shifts, and watch this next video about why trying harder actually makes you fail more.